Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Lewin, founder of SpeakUpForBlue.com. Welcome to the program. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about advocacy. Normally I have somebody on the show, which I do now, and I'll introduce you to them in a second, but I have somebody on the show and I interview them and what they're doing, what they're up to make you aware of what's happening in the ocean and what people are doing to conserve the ocean. But today we're going to go something different. I was made aware of a story of Tim DeChristopher. He's, I guess what you can say, an environmental activist that was out in Utah. He did something, I'm going to introduce it in a second, but he did something, got punished for it, and we're talking about it because when I saw the story, I just thought, you know, how far do we take advocacy? How far do we go to protect the ocean? Because this is something that everybody wants to do. Everybody has a feeling towards the ocean, normally to protect it, and you know, we see it being destroyed all the time. How far can we go to protect it? So we're going to discuss, I'm going to discuss, I have a guest on right now, Arlo Hemphill. He's based in California, and Arlo, I'm going to let you talk in a second, but what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about advocacy. How, you know, what do we need to do, how far do we need to cross the line? And at what cost do we do to cross the line to protect our oceans? So Arlo, welcome to the program. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Andrew.
No problem. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so people can, if people who don't know you, can get a sense of what you do.
Great. I'm a wilderness advocate and science communicator, and I've been working basically at the interface of conservation science, policy, and communications for the last 15 years. My background is in, my educational background is in marine biology, okay, but I've worked primarily in the sphere of international conservation, and specifically in promoting large-scale policy agendas on the high seas and in situations such as that.
Okay, okay, great. And you're based in California. Where in California are you based?
I'm in Marina, California, which is just outside of Monterey, so I'm on the Monterey Peninsula.
Oh, very nice. I hear. I went to California my first time in May. It was in San Diego, and I did pop over to LA. My brother and my wife and I did, but we didn't get it up to that far north. But definitely on my bucket list to go see. So maybe next time I'm out there, I'll come see you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so let's get down to the issue here. You know, you made me aware of this story of Tim DeChristopher. I don't know the full story. You've been following it for a little bit, so can you just give everybody a background of what happened, sort of from beginning to end?
Sure. Tim DeChristopher is a climate change advocate who has been working for a number of years within various climate change organizations. Mm-hmm. And a couple years ago, it's been enough years that it was still the Bush administration when this occurred.
Right.
He played what basically plays out to be a prank. Okay. In order to make a point towards climate change. And basically what he did is the Bush administration released 300,000 acres of Utah wilderness for oil and gas concessions, and they put that up as leases within the Bureau for Land Management.
So sorry, was this wilderness like protected already, or is it just sort of unprotected, you know, wilderness?
It was protected in the sense that it was federal wilderness lands. Okay, okay. So nobody could develop it on it regularly. Right. There may have been permitted activities already, such as ranching. Okay. But it was all federal wilderness. Okay. Okay. And he went to the auction and posed as an oil investor, okay, and successfully bid on $1.7 million worth of leases. Wow. So it wasn't just one lease, it was more than one lease. It was multiple leases totaling $1.7 million in value. Okay. Okay. And he did this to thwart the development of oil and gas on these lands. Okay. The irony is that Bush was never supposed to release these lands for oil and gas development, and a federal court later ruled that it was a flawed release, and that has been retracted. But nevertheless, his criminal case for doing this quote unquote prank continued on. Right. And And just recently, within, I guess it's been about a month or so ago now, he was found guilty and charged $10,000 in fines and 2 years in federal prison.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Okay, so I knew about the sentencing, which sort of outraged me when I first heard about it. I didn't realize that the federal government never gave up the land in the first place because the court found that it wasn't theirs to give up.
Right.
So he got convicted of something, of buying land that he was never supposed to buy anyway. Exactly. But they still went through with the conviction?
Exactly.
Are you
kidding me? It is still protected federal wilderness.
That's ridiculous.
No one is developing it for oil and gas.
And he's still being punished.
And he's still being punished.
Oh my God. I didn't realize that. I must have missed that in the article. That's even worse.
It was one of these last ditch efforts that presidents do when they're leaving office.
Right.
And just like on the plus side, President Bush made a number of national monuments in the Pacific that were a big bonus for marine conservation.
Right. The Hawaiian protected area, right?
Right. Yeah. Two of them, the Pacific National Monument and the one in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands that I can't pronounce.
Me neither. I was going to see if you could pronounce it, but I know there's no way I can pronounce it.
I'm not going to try. But so that was a bone he threw to the conservation community. A bone he threw to oil and gas was to release these federal lands for oil and gas development. But after he left presidency, it was determined that the releasing of those federal lands was flawed, that he couldn't do that. So it was retracted.
Okay, so I don't understand that, how he still gets, how the criminal process still goes on and convicts a man who bought land that was never to be sold to him anyway. Shouldn't it be like a cancel out? Like, shouldn't that cancel out?
You would think so.
Okay. Beyond that, was Tim acting on his own, or was he working for a particular organization at the time? Do you know?
That is unclear to me. I know that he has strong affiliations with a few organizations.
Okay.
But I'm not clear if what he did was a sanctioned action from any particular organization, or if it was something that he just conceived on his own and did.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't see anything in the article about him working like on behalf of somebody, so it might have just been on his own. But I mean, that really goes to the question, does it really, how far did he, like, he must have been pretty frustrated. There must have been a point where he was just saying, this isn't going to stop. I need to stop this. This is what I'm going to do. Did you know if he tried anything else? Or what could he have done instead of just going, like, he knew he didn't have the money.
Right.
And if an organization wasn't backing him, sometimes, like, I know the Nature Conservancy buys land.
Exactly.
And I'm actually surprised they didn't try to bid it. Who knows? I don't know what their procedures in buying land are. But, for an individual, like, say, you and I, to go up and buy $1.7 million or at least $1.7 million of land that I know I can't pay.
Yeah.
You wonder if he knew, one, if he knew the consequences of his actions, and two, he just didn't care. And just said, you know what, let's, this has got to stop, and I'm going to stop it.
He obviously knew that there were consequences.
Right.
What those, if he knew the severity of those consequences, I don't know. But he obviously knew that he was breaking the law. Yeah. And that there was risk involved, and he decided to do it anyway. Right.
And he got, you said, $10,000 fine, fines, and 2 years in jail.
That's right. Prison.
Yeah, prison. Like, it's not just, we don't know what kind of jail. We were talking in the pre-interview of this. We don't really know what kind of jail, if it's like a maximum or minimum security. I don't know really the prison system, but this is 2 years of his life that he'll never get back. If he stays 2 years, who knows, he might get out on parole. But this is 2 years, and this is going to stick with him for life. What we were saying before, if he goes out, finds a job anywhere in the States, they'll ask him his background. I know I've applied to jobs in the States, even in Canada, and they've asked me, do I have a record and things, and he's going to have one now. And it doesn't matter what he did, people are going to think, you've got a record, so you're screwed. You're not going to be able to get this job because that's it's a filtering mechanism, really.
Right. And as I said, I'm really less worried about him from that front because this whole situation has kind of made him a poster child within the climate change advocacy community. Yeah. And I feel that he has a very strong role and a place to be once he does get out. Right. What I am skeptical about is how 2 years of incarceration surrounded by sometimes very extreme criminals and under intolerable circumstances and mistreatment from the guards and deprivation of the senses and everything that goes with prison incarceration in the United States, how that is going to impact a young man who so passionately cares about the planet, who is so obviously an intelligent, active member of society, who wanted nothing else but to make this world a better place, and is now being deprived of that world for 2 years of his young life.
Yeah, and especially for a crime that, yes, he committed, but he wasn't going to get the land if he had the money anyway. Right. So it's a lose-lose situation. If he had the money, they weren't going to give him the money. Who knows if they would have given the money back right away. And now he doesn't have the money, he goes to jail for not having the money. He
didn't steal anything.
No.
He didn't commit a violent act towards anybody.
Right.
The most that he actually did was he did lie.
Yes.
But he that's basically all he did was lie and cause somebody some extra paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And for that he gets 2 years in jail and $10,000 in fines.
Right. And meanwhile, the companies that he's up against, the people that he was bidding against, they lie to us every day. They tell us that oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico are safe. Yeah. They put posters all over airports telling us how green they are and that they are the sustainable wave of the future. And if you were to just believe the signs in the airports, you would believe that these companies are the leaders in green technology and in green advocacy. Yeah. They lie to us every single day, and nothing happens to them.
And yet they are the people who pay the money to the naysayers of climate change just to cause enough sort of damage to the whole climate change movement, let's say, that it is basically it's become a huge debate, a huge debacle in terms of scientific information being communicated, and it's caused this division between I know in the States between I guess within Congress and within the Senate, and actually over here in Canada too. Our Prime Minister doesn't think climate change is really a problem. And he's scrapped all our, he scrapped the Kyoto Protocol, told us he embarrassed our country, publicly and on an international scale and things. And so, these are the same companies who essentially are responsible for this.
Exactly.
And it's one of those things where you're just like, they got away scot-free. They looked like they were innocent in this whole thing, and I guess they were, yet they were about to lease land that was going to destroy. How many miles? 300 square miles was it? Do you say?
Was it 150 or 300,000? I could check really quick.
Either way more than what was necessary.
Right.
And they were just going to do it, and that probably would have led, because that could have led to getting more towards the coast, like in California. It could have gone to Oregon. It could have gone out to the sea and things like that. You never know.